All right, everybody, you are now listening to Uncontested with Rob and Mania. It is Friday, January 4th, 2019, and it is the day before the wild card games in the NFL playoffs. And of course, that means we have an episode here of Uncontested loaded with debate about the wild card games that are coming up. After we debate the wild card games, we're gonna go ahead and move on to what is the best head coaching vacancy in the NFL, and then we'll end the show today with what is the most disappointing season a team has had in the NFL this season, and what is the most surprising or best season a team has had. So we have about 4 topics to talk about, well, 3 really, but they're kind of longer, in-depth topics, especially picking the 4 wild card games. So we'll get right into it, but we have kind of a caveat with the wild card games and how we're going to talk about them. We only disagree on 3 games, so we agree on the Chargers and the Ravens, and we think that the Los Angeles Chargers are going to beat the Baltimore Ravens, but we disagree on the other 3 games. So we're going to talk about why we think the team we think will win, and then move on to the next. So you guys get it. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to start with Mania taking it away with why he thinks the Chargers will beat the Ravens, and then I'll follow up, and then we'll move on to actual debate. So Mania, go ahead, take it away, and give your reasons why.
Hello everyone. The Chargers at Ravens wildcard game. As he said, I believe the Chargers are going to win, and he agrees with me on this one. The only one we agree on right now. And it's the Ravens did win the regular season game against the Chargers 22-10. And it is a home game for the Ravens, so it looks like the Ravens are going to win this again, because that was like a pretty decent victory. But the loss for the Chargers was right after an emotional victory over the Chiefs, and it was by 1 point. And it was a close game where the refs were against them the entire time, giving them bad call to the Chiefs. And there was a blatant miss helmet to helmet that got Rivers pretty angry enough to go for a crazy 2-point conversion. And it shockingly won the game. I didn't think that would work, but that worked. So here the Chargers would be coming off of a much more easier victory against the Broncos. It's not as much of an emotional game. They're not as tired, and so I think they'll be much better off in this game. And they also have a good idea of how the Ravens played, because it's still in recent memory. They played each other this is the second time they're going to play each other within a month. And then the Carolina Panthers did really well against the Saints whenever they played each other that close. Even though the Saints were kind of resting, it was still a shocking game for the Panthers with how well they did. So the Chargers should be able to do the same thing against the Ravens. And just
go ahead.
Like winning the division, the Ravens, they weren't really the better team. The Steelers just fell off.
Yeah. So is that all you have to?
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with a lot of your points about, especially the point about playing a team twice inside of a month. It kind of, even if you lost, it even more so favors the fact that your team might win the following matchup, because one, when you lose a game and then you play a team again, it's easier to correct your mistakes and play up to a little bit better, because you know what to expect. You correct the mistakes, you got film on what you did wrong. Whereas the team that won might rest on their laurels. They might try to just replicate what they did in the last game to win. And we've seen this happen many times. There's numerous examples of this happening where a team loses the first game, replays a team in the playoffs, and then loses, even if it's within the same month. And history's on the side of the Chargers in that respect. They have a better. This game's of course going to come down to like defenses and things of that nature, and how Lamar plays on the big stage. But I also think like. And with the recent trend of young quarterbacks making their first playoff start, it's not very pretty. It's not the most. It just doesn't end well. Look at Dak Prescott. Look at Jared Goff. Their first playoff starts didn't end so well. I kind of have a feeling it's going to be like that for Lamar. If it comes down to long yardage situations, which it will for both teams, who do you trust more to make the bigger plays toward the end of the game? Do you trust Lamar Jackson to make long throws, or do you trust Phillip Rivers? I gotta go Phillip Rivers. You have the number 2 or number 1 ranked defense and the number 8 ranked defense, and a rookie quarterback and a established veteran who's been in the playoffs. I don't know, but I think the scales kind of weigh in favor of the Chargers. Though they are for all the reasons I've already said, they've played each other. History seems to dictate the second game goes to the team who lost the first one. It's just all these, all those things factored. Plus the stage of the playoffs, I think it kind of overwhelms Lamar. They also don't feel the Ravens don't even feel comfortable with him throwing the ball late in games, as you've seen them run the shit out of it against the Cleveland Browns. Even though Greg Williams was dialing up run blitzes and blitzing specifically on the run, so they still decided to run with it instead of let Lamar throw it late in the game. So that kind of indicates what the Ravens even think about his throwing abilities late, what they think about his decision making late. Under pressure in a big game, let's see what they do. Do they trust him to make the long throws? I don't know. Do I? Not really. So that's why I think the Chargers will go ahead and get beaten by, the Chargers will beat the Ravens anyway. So how you doing, Mania?
And Rivers, he's honestly having a really great year this year as well, with 4,000 plus yards. I don't think he's going to want to waste that this year, losing the one-and-go game.
Yep, it'll be a close game, but I think the Chargers prevail like 23-20 or 23-17, something like that. But how you doing, Mania? How's it going?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
We're gonna move on to the Colts at Texans.
Colts and Texans? All right.
Yeah, Colts and Texans. Because that's
you want
the
to
next paper I have.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I guess we'll let you go first, and you can give your pick on who you obviously think is going to win. The Indianapolis Colts, the better team, the true MVP of the league, Andrew Luck.
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, you changed it. That's shocking. Who did you change your pick to?
It's always been the Texans.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the Texans. Well, they are division rivals, so this is essentially another division game just on the playoff field. And both teams had a bad, rough start, and both teams had a breakout game, and then both teams have been pretty good ever since. The Texans have more wins, but the teams are pretty close to each other, and you can see that whenever both times they played each other. The Texans, they did win the first game, but it was by 3 points, and it was because the Colts, they decided to go for it because they didn't want to do a tie. And in the second game, the Colts won, but again, it was by 3 points, and both games were really close. It's just going to be one of those things that kind of goes down to like the final drive, and I think it's going to be which offense can finish off the final drive with the score. Because it's, again, Watson has shown in both games that whether he's on a bad day or a good day, he can keep up with Andrew Luck. The offense can keep up with their offense. Even with the bad secondary, they can keep up with them. It's just more of which team can hold out and which team can make that final scoring drive. And I believe it's going to be my Texans. I believe they're going to win this game by 3 points. Hopkins is going to be able to make some spectacular catches. They're not going to be using quarterbacks as receivers this time, so that should help them. Yeah. And the defensive line should be able to get a lot of pressure to Luck. They're both athletic, so they can get out of pressure, but hopefully the defensive line JJ Watt and the rest will be playing on another level, and they'll be able to get to Luck just as much as Watson will have players get to him.
Okay. Anything else you want to add about the Texans, or is that all you got for this one, or do you want me to? My turn?
You can go ahead. I'll come back whenever I find some other stuff.
Okay, if you think of something else or something. Alright, so to your point about the way that they split in the regular season, I thought about that and I've had some time to think about how they split. Would you agree with me that the first game that those two teams played against each other really didn't mean like anything to what the two teams are now? Like, would you agree with me that the two teams that played each other are nowhere near what they are today? Early in the season, like, they're way better, they're way more polished, they're just a better unit, both teams, right?
That is, well, that's 100% true.
So okay, so
when it is 1-2.
Yeah, exactly. So both teams were bad. Now, so we can kind of exclude that game from actually meaning anything to what these two teams actually are. So when I look at these two teams, I see the two polished products that played each other in Houston a couple weeks ago, and the Houston Texans were unable to, at home, beat their division rival, the Indianapolis Colts. And, you know, even if it was just by a field goal, they were unable to do so. So when I see these two teams, I look at that and I take out that first game, and I know that's a little bit, you know, like, why would you just do that? Because I don't think that that first game describes either of those two teams at all. I think the second game is more accurate of what both teams actually can do. And we've seen the Colts already topple them once in Houston, and I could see them doing it again. And that is because as much as I like Andrew Luck, or as much as I like the offense that the Houston Texans have, I just cannot trust their defense. They can get some pressure on Andrew Luck, but he was only sacked 18 times this year. I think that was the least in the league. Good luck getting to him. Quentin Nelson, an All-Pro, is going to make sure that doesn't happen. And if he gets about 3 to 5 seconds to throw the ball, he is going to torch that horrible secondary all afternoon. Jonathan Joseph can't cover Ebron and T.Y. Hilton. I just don't know what's going to happen with that. And if they do somehow shut down the running or the passing game, Marlon Mack will bail Andrew Luck out, because if he can get past and get the push into the secondary, he's gone. Especially if Joseph, God forbid, something happens and he falls, gets hurt. Then what happens? There's nothing. That's the only thing that really sketches me out, because when I really think about the Colts versus the Texans, they have pretty equal offenses. The offensive line is very suspect for the Texans, but Watson's athleticism and his playmakers make up for it. Luck's lack of playmakers is made up for by an outstanding offensive line and a very, very smart quarterback who can make any throw he dreams of. So, in a solid running game, Lamar and Watson doesn't really have much of a running game. It's sketchy at best. So again, I really enjoy. So the offenses are even for the Colts and the Texans, but then I look at their defenses. Both have pretty good front sevens. I will give a slight nod to the Texans, but I think that's offset by the caliber of player on the Colts offensive line. And then I look at the Texans secondary versus the Colts. Colts secondary we've seen against the Titans. We've seen many times this year. They can make plays. They can keep people out of the end zone. They have a shutout this year against the Cowboys. So I look at what's going to come down to it, what defense is going to make a play, and I think the Colts can make a play and stop the Texans offense more than the Texans defense can stop the Colts offense. So I like the Colts to win the game because they have a better defense that can make a stop. I don't think the Texans can. They play a lot of big shootout type games, and I don't think that's going to work in the playoffs. I think Darius Leonard plays a major key in this game. Colts win 27-20 or 28-24, I think is what I had. So anything else you want to add in, Mania, or any counterpoints? Or
Well, the Texans, what they do are missing a secondary. Like I said, against the Colts, you want to just look at the last game. They were able to keep up with the Colts all the way through, and it just came to that one final drive the Colts had that gave the Texans, they didn't have enough time to catch up. So that's why I think it's more like the
Texans play made. So the Texans defense, so the Colts defense made one more play than the Texans did last game. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's more like it'll come down more to which offense has the big final drive. The Texans, they didn't have that big final drive. They didn't have time. If they had time, I think they could have caught up. So it's whoever runs down the clock more and gets the big final drive.
Okay. I don't really have much else to say. I think if it comes down to who can lead a time-killing drive better, I think that's Andrew Luck, more field general, better offensive line. So, you know what I mean? The running game, again, if it comes down to time-killing, that's another problem for, well, I don't know. I've already spoke a lot. I've already kind of spoke my piece about why I think the Colts will win.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, no, nothing too much else. We can move on to the next wildcard game, the Seahawks at the Cowboys.
Seahawks at the Cowboys. What an interesting game. This game will be in Dallas. The Cowboys are the early favorites by like 2 points, maybe 1.5 points in terms of all that. I guess you can go first because I did just technically talk for 4 straight minutes or so.
This one is more shorter. I don't have really specific any data to pick the Cowboys. It's more because the Cowboys, they have a specific formula for winning. Like, you can't deny that. They have a
100%.
The question, it's just a question of whether.
What is the formula? Do you know what the formula is? So anyone who's listening can know what the formula is. And
yes, the formula for the Cowboys is to get an early lead in the game.
That's
and
first.
Then have the defense play really good and stopping our offense, and then just giving the running back Zeke the ball 30-40 times and just run the clock down.
Exactly. That's the way the Cowboys win, and especially if they're at home for some reason. At home, that recipe had worked 7 times this year. They went 7-1 at home, and they won 7 games like that at home. Look at every one of the games, I think, except like the Giants, where they won a shootout against like the worst team in football. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Bad defense.
Well, I want to actually talk about the Giants at some point, but like for now, let's talk about the Cowboys and winning. Zeke, he looks good. He still has the most rushing yards, and he didn't even play against the Giants. They knew they could rest him, so they rested him, and he should be up and ready to go. He'll have fresh legs going into this game, which would be good for all those running yards and running down the clock. And then there's the defense as well. Against the Giants, the defense only played like 15 minutes. They got a lot of rest in that game. It was they were playing the first string defense though, but they got
all game they played the starters.
Yeah, all game, but they played only a total of like 15 minutes. The Cowboys offense, they had the ball for a total of 45 minutes. They basically had a rest that day. And then Dak Prescott, that game, and I can see why they played it. It was like a confidence boost type thing, because Dak Prescott, he's been relying on Zeke more than his own arm all season, and so they wanted to give Dak Prescott a chance to show that he can make plays and score and win a game without Dak Prescott, and that's what this game was about, and that's what he did. And I think that's going to be good, because that's going to help him with his early throwing game and get the score early on. And then the defense, well rested, they'll be able to stop the offense, the Seahawks offense. They'll be able to do that. And then Zeke, with his fresh legs, he'll be able to run the ball as much as they need. It's just like Cowboys are going to win this game. It's going to be another close game, because that's the kind of games Cowboys play, close, low-scoring games. But because of all the Dak's confidence boost, the defense resting, and then Zeke's fresh legs, it's perfect for the Cowboys to win. You
think they're gonna play it? You think they're gonna be able to play their style at Jerry World, do their thing, and
yes, I think they're gonna be able to play their style, and I think it's the only game where they'll be able to play their style. Like, they're gonna go to the away games, and then they're just gonna have to figure something else out. They're not gonna be able to figure it out. They're gonna lose. They're gonna win their first game though.
All right. So, my turn?
Yeah, your turn.
Okay, so I really... What's up?
So there you go, Skip, your turn.
Alright, so now I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be able to win this game, and I think it's going to come down... This was a pretty hard decision, the Seahawks or the Cowboys. And while I agree with you that they have Zeke, who is one of the best running backs, if not the best running back, one of the best running backs in football, I would still give the slight nod in the running game to the Seahawks. They had the best running game in football overall this year. I give the quarterback an obvious nod over to Russell Wilson. I give the receivers to the Seahawks and Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett. I give the defense, I guess, to the Cowboys, but I think the Seahawks will win this game. But in terms of the Cowboys defense, the last 4 games they're giving up 25 points a game, including giving up over 400 yards to the Giants and giving up over 30 points to the Giants. That frightens me going into the game if you were rooting for the Cowboys. So we've seen the defense since the Saints game give up at least 25 a game. That's a very troubling sign, including getting shut out by a playoff team, the Indianapolis Colts. So they run into playoff teams and they struggle with them. And that's a troubling, that's not what you want to see out of a team that has to play a team like the Seattle Seahawks with a very suffocating defense, Bobby Wagner, Frank Clark. I think that's going to really shut down the running game for the Cowboys, so I think that's going to disrupt their style of football. The Seattle Seahawks defense will. I think that this game, I really don't know if, you know what I mean? So I don't know if they're going to be able to get that early running head start because they're playing a good defense, well-coached defense. They're playing a coach, Pete Carroll, who's going to be well prepared for that specific style of Dallas Cowboys football like he was earlier this season. And I know they don't have Earl Thomas, but they still dominated the game without him. I know Elliott rushed really well in that game, but it wasn't the same Seahawks we're seeing this right now. And I don't know. Like you, I don't have a lot on this game. I just have a feeling it's going to come down to quarterback play in this game. Every game I tried to figure out what it's going to come down to. And it's like, say the game's going to, because it's going to be a low scoring game. I think like a 20-17 Seattle's going to win it. But I think it ultimately is going to come down to which quarterback is going to make less mistakes, who's going to be better with the football, who's going to be able to lead their team when it matters the most. And I put that on Russell Wilson. I think, obviously you do that with Wilson. Dak is who he is. He was garbage until they picked up Amari Cooper. And if Amari Cooper isn't, available, what's Dak going to do? Throw it to a tight end? Not really, because Bobby Wagner's covering him. What are you going to do in this game when your tight end that emerged in the last game of the season is covered and Amari Cooper's doing whatever Amari Cooper's doing? And they can't run because Frank Clark is all over Zeke. And I believe there's a couple of people out for the Cowboys. One of their linemen are out. There's just weird things going on with the Cowboys that should start to worry everybody. Most of the Cowboys, I don't know. I don't have much more to say about the issues, so I just think Seattle's going to win. Gut feeling, better quarterback, better team, better coaching staff usually leads to a win in the playoffs. So Seahawks over the Cowboys.
And to your point on the Cowboys defense, I didn't know about the defense struggling a lot more after the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of figured that's a lot to do with the Saints they still are. They are the number one offense, and they were able to keep them to 10 points, I think.
Yeah, but for 4 straight, they shouldn't be that exhausted. They gave up 25 points and over 300 yards to the Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's not like got shut out by the Colts.
Yeah, being shut out by the Colts doesn't have anything to do with the defense, though. That's the offense.
The defense gave up 23 points. And they would have gave up more if the offense of the Colts hadn't stopped scoring the ball. Yeah.
The defense. I just think the defense are gonna do well. They should be doing better than they have been because this is, like I said, they played only 15 minutes, so they got some
Well,
rest.
to be fair, the defense is very young and they might be tired. It seems like after the 12th game of the season, which is about usually when a season would end for a lot of these guys who are, 4-year players, 3-year players, some are rookies. This is the stretch of the season that rookies fall apart. Look at Saquon's numbers; they kind of fell off at the end. A lot of rookies typically will fall off. You know what I mean? Especially defense, because of how hard they play. They're not used to it, and we're kind of seeing that with the Cowboys. A little tired, a little slower, not as crisp, not as aware.
And defense, I think defense also kind of tires out a lot easier than offense.
Oh, I agree. And they're young guys, so they're probably a little bit more gassed because, they're just not used to this. They might have used up some energy that they shouldn't have, It happens. Kind of like how the, what team was it? The 73-9 Golden State Warriors gassed out against the Cavaliers and just, we have nothing left. We shouldn't have gone 73-9. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't put all your energy out on the regular season when you have the playoffs to worry about. So anyway, I have really nothing else to say. I don't know about you.
Nothing more. I just wanted to make the comment about the defense about being much more rested this time.
All right. Well, now we have. I think I don't mean to be rude, Mania. Don't hate on me for this one, but I think this is one of your silliest picks of the entire year.
Yes, I know what it is.
Which is a Sunday night football game. The Sunday night matchup will be the Chicago Bears hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Chicago is the host to the Eagles. And did you pick this just so we could have something to debate, or do you really feel like the Eagles are going to be able to pull off an upset in a city that hasn't seen a playoff game since the Bears got beat by the Packers in the championship game several years ago? Why do you think the Eagles are going to beat the Bears? Go ahead.
The Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Bears, and it's not just because we have different views. It's just it's a gut feeling I had. Like I had a feeling that if the Bears ended up playing the Eagles would win. I thought that during the Bears and Vikings game. It's just what I thought. It was before your whole video came up. It was just it's just a gut feeling I have. Like I understand the Bears are the better team. Like they have the better defense. And I think right now
I would say the Eagles have. No, I don't know. Eagles have the better offense, better quarterback.
Yeah, dude, Nick Foles. Yeah, he's a great quarterback, and he does play on another level when it's playoff time in December. Right now he hasn't played very many games, but this December he threw for 962 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 103.9. And this is December. It's just he plays on a whole nother level here, and he's able to get the Eagles to play more as a unit, and somehow gets the other players to play good as well. Like he's a better leader than Wentz is. Wentz may be the more athletic quarterback, but Foles is the better leader that can get everyone to play. And I just think that the Bears are just going to go in. They're going to go in thinking they can beat the Eagles. This is what I feel. It's no sense because the Bears are the better team. They could win this. But I feel like because they know they can win this, and they know they're the better team, they're going to underestimate the Eagles a little bit.
Didn't you say that about the way that they were going to play the Vikings, that they were going to underestimate and not play up to their full potential? And
I thought the Bears were going to throw the game.
Oh, okay. So you just don't have a feel on how the Bears play football this season. Okay.
No, I don't have a feel on the Bears this season, but this is just a gut feeling. Like the Bears are just gonna.
I get it. I get gut feelings.
We're a good team. I just don't think they know just how good the Eagles are. Like they know that they're a good team. I just don't know if they know exactly how good the Eagles are. Because the Eagles, they are a really good team, and they are a pretty scary team. Like no, the Bears are the better team, but the Eagles, they're still scary. And it's in the playoffs, it's just one of those things where really anything can happen. Like you can have an upset like at any point in the postseason.
Yeah.
And I just think that, and this is basically just my
Your upset pick.
upset of this week. Yeah,
Okay.
my upset of the week.
Okay, so are you all done?
Yeah, I'm all done. I just think the Eagles are going to come in. They're going to surprise the Bears. The Eagles are going to get like some sort of an early lead and just build up on those points. And then the Bears are going to like try to catch up. But I don't think the Bears are going to catch up. That's just how I think the game's going to go down. The Eagles surprise the Bears.
Okay, so I don't. What?
The Bears are the better team.
Yeah, I know, and while I agree with you on about one thing you said in this, and that is that Nick Foles is the better quarterback between him and Mitchell Trubisky, but in this game, I don't really think it's going to matter what either quarterback does or doesn't do, because it's going to come down to one factor and one factor alone. How can the Eagles play against this Bears defense, especially at home? It's going to be energized off its home crowd. It's going to be freezing cold outside. And I know the Eagles play outside in a cold city, but they're going to be playing in Chicago, windy, horrible. It's the making of the Bears. It's how the Bears win games. It's horrible. The Rams could only score 6 points, even though, and here's proof. They played the Rams, right, in Chicago and won 15-6. Mitchell had like 6 turnovers in that game, and they still won. So when I say it doesn't matter what Mitchell does at quarterback, it doesn't in Chicago. He can do whatever he feels like. He could throw 5 interceptions in this game, and they'll still win. Number one, the Eagles don't have a running game. They're not going to be able to do any kind of deception. They can pretty much sit on the pass and rush in guys. It's going to be pretty hard for you know what I mean? The Eagles aren't going to be able to get anything going on offense without a running game against Chicago in the cold. They're going to swallow Darren Sproles might actually just get hit so hard he vanishes in this game. I don't think he's ready for Waquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack. Good luck running it, and in the cold you need to be able to run it. Eagles aren't going to be able to do that and throwing it. They have Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller. Good luck, Nick Foles. You haven't played anything like this. Yeah, and I just don't think that, and I know how good he is, and I know they're this Destiny team, but I'm also a very big fan of realism and reality, especially in sports. And this feels like when like a super team starts going on a miracle run, and then they run into the New England Patriots and just get obliterated. That's what we're looking at when because everyone's like, oh my god, the upset. There's no upset coming, folks. It's going to be depressing. It's going to be, everyone's got these...
Eagles lose, it's not depressing. I'm going to be all like cheering.
Oh yeah, we're all going to be happy to see them go down, but it's going to be depressing for Eagles fans because they think they got this chance. Like, we're riding high on fool's magic. It's fool's magic. It's fool's gold.
Okay, who cares about Eagles fans? Okay.
Oh yeah, I know. But anyway, the thing with everything, it's not. Yes, the story's fun, and if they were playing any other team, I might think the Eagles pull off the victory on momentum. But they're playing the best defense in the NFL by a lot, a scary defense that takes zero shit. And the defensive coordinator, to your thing of being ready, he hasn't even prepared for head coaching jobs. He hasn't taken calls. He hasn't taken anything. He's just been preparing for the Philadelphia Eagles, and then he's going to be preparing. So they're very prepared for anything Philadelphia might run. If we see the attempt of the Philly special, I think we're going to see a special pick 6 by one of Kyle Fuller or Eddie Jackson. Long day for the Eagles. I think this is actually a blowout, like 31-7. Bears win. And I actually think because the Eagles don't have a secondary, I think Trubisky has a decent game too. And if Trubisky doesn't turn it over, the Eagles stand no chance. Good luck. They can run the ball too. They got Howard and Cohen. So I don't know. I just don't see the Eagles pulling this off. It'll be the craziest upset of the season if the Eagles can beat the Bears in Chicago. I mean, the Patriots did, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway.
My confidence level for this game, this is like the one I'm the least confident about in choosing, but it's just like a...
If you can't tell, I'm very confident that Eagles lose this
you're
game.
Yeah, you're very confident. Like, I still think the Eagles, this is my upset of the week.
Yeah, so there's not much. You don't need to really do anything to like solidify or like, hey, it's an upset. Eat shit if you don't like it. Pretty much. So that will end our pick segment because we've gone over the 4 games, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about what we think the best coaching vacancy in the NFL is. I guess I'll go first if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it is actually going to be the team. A lot of people have agreed with this. It's the Cleveland Browns. I think that is the most attractive job in the NFL for a variety of reasons. A young defense, Myles Garrett, Jabril Peppers, Denzel Ward. I wish I knew more of the players specifically on the Cleveland Browns, but you know what I'm talking about when I say they have a good young core on defense that has been coached up to play hard, play aggressively, play correct style NFL hard-nosed football, but that's been taught to them by Greg Williams, a great defensive coordinator, great teacher of how to play strong defensive football in the NFL. You gotta like that, and you gotta like the way that they play defense this year. They've improved dramatically. They're a young core that have been together for a very long time, so you also gotta love the chemistry on the defense. It's the anchor of the team. They really can stop. They held a team like the Saints to like less than to 21 points in New Orleans. I remind you. So they can play. They can play when they get going. It's just they're young. And then the offense. I can't even begin to tell you how promising the offense looks for the Cleveland Browns as a promising coaching job. You have Baker Mayfield, 27 touchdowns, breaks the NFL rookie record for quarterbacks held by Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson. That is something special. He has Jarvis Landry to throw the ball to. He has number 85. It's like Njoku or something at tight end. He's got Nick Chubb in the backfield. Had a great, phenomenal rookie season. I believe they have Higgins, who broke out a bit as a wide receiver. They have a lot of money to spend this offseason, somewhere between like $70 and $100 million the Browns have in cap space. So they can make a few improvements, sign another wide receiver, potentially make some trades, draft a potential star, add some more stars via the draft. They are sitting very pretty. They also, 7-8-1. They're going to be picking inside of the top 15, potentially top 20. So I like that. Dorsey's a very smart, the GM, which is John Dorsey. He built the Kansas City Chiefs into what you see today, and it looks like he's redoing the same thing with the Cleveland Browns. I like that, and it's just, the AFC North is kind of falling apart. The Bengals are terrible. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in complete mess. The only real challenge is the Ravens. And they have a young quarterback that's not going to sustain. Potentially, as history dictates, running quarterbacks have trouble with sustainability. So it's an attractive job. You have everything on offense. You have everything on defense. You only need a couple more, and small additions are the kind that you want when you're a coach. You have a star quarterback. You have star players. And I don't know. And you're going to be a hot destination for teams because teams will want to play with guys like Baker. They'll want to play with just an attractive team right now. So I like the way the Browns look. They're a nice looking team. And I think that's probably one of the reasons is what their defense is made up of. And of course what the offense is made up of with Baker, and you got Myles Garrett, you got stars, you have all the right pieces. You still got a good draft pick. You got money to spend. I don't know. It just seems like that would be the job you'd want right now if you were a coach. And I don't know. You don't have a very high ceiling. You can go 9-7 for like 10 years and be a god in Cleveland. So, you know what I mean? You're taking over a team with low expectations. Whereas any of these other jobs, there's probably some decent, like, we need to win some fucking games now. Cleveland, it's like, hey man, these fans are happy if we go over 500 finally. So good luck. Go 500 for us. Great season. Yeah, I would want that job with all the stars. Make the playoffs, you're a fucking Hall of Fame coach. But alright, that's why I think the Browns are the most attractive. So, what do you think? Who is the most...
For me, I don't think the Browns are the most attractive. Partially because they're still the Browns and they've had talent before. This is not the first time they've had talent.
Not this much talent.
Yeah. It's just they have a history of wasting talent, and they have it just Cleveland itself just feels like a cursed franchise, with the only team really that's ever won a championship being the Cavs. And when you have LeBron James for as long as they did, and you only get one championship, that it's not really breaking the curse.
Man, Mania doesn't believe in believe land.
It's the Browns. Like I know what I said last week. I still think the Browns are going to do well next season.
Yeah. But what's up? Who are you thinking?
The best available coaching job, the most attractive, I think it's the Jets. And honestly, for this information, Rob, I kind of stole info from one of your videos.
What's that?
I sat down and I kind of watched your videos where you talked about the coaches that were fired.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to know where I got my information, like my source, just go back into one of Rob's previous videos. So I went in there and I was thinking, about the Patriots for a moment. I know they're not really looking for a head coach now, and they didn't get fired, but about the Patriots and their division. The Patriots dynasty, like Rob, I'm sure you can admit it may not be ending to this year, next year, or whatever, but you can admit it's coming to an end at some point.
Yeah, it's on its way out. I would say yeah. And somebody's got to take the AFC East.
Somebody's got to take the AFC East. And so I was looking at the AFC East, and I was thinking, imagine being known as the coach that built your team, and it's the one that took the AFC East after the Patriots dynasty, the one to put the final nail in the coffin, saying you can't win here no more. Imagine being the coach known for that. And I was thinking, and I got a little lucky because there was two coaches in Rob's videos that were fired. It was like the Jets and I think the Bills. No, the Dolphins. It was the Jets and the Dolphins coach. So I was thinking between those two jobs, which one would be a bit more attractive for me? And I was looking at the Dolphins, and yeah, they were a mediocre team this year. And also, like, their stadium is crap. It's in Florida. The Dolphins just don't look good. Like, they just look like they're a mediocre team. You need to revamp the entire team, and that means going to the bottom for a couple years. But the Jets, they're already down at the bottom. You can easily build your own identity there. Because they have good draft picks this year. Just take the next year or two, get good draft picks, build your team, build your identity, and then on whenever the Patriots start to struggle and you see that it's your chance, take the moment and win all the way. Because at that point you would have been building for 2-3 years on your team. You're already at the bottom, so you can start now, rebuild everything, and it's just like you'll be known as the team that replaced the Patriots in the AFC East. And that would be huge in my opinion.
Yeah. Any other reasons for the Jets? I mean, I can give you some reasons why the Jets are actually an attractive team.
Well,
they got Sam Darnold. We got $100 million in cap space to spend this offseason. They could easily sign Le'Veon Bell and then maybe trade for one Antonio Brown. They got Jamal Adams on defense. They got a lot going for them.
And like I said, they're at the bottom, and you can build your own identity there. Build your own offense, build your own defense. It's a clean slate there.
Yeah, I agree. But I just think that in the division they're in the AFC with the Chiefs and the Texans and all these budding teams, the Colts, it's going to be hard for any. I don't know. Well, I like your pick, but it's the Jets. They're very unstable. All right, so anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, let's move on downstream.
All right. All right, so now we've got two teams. We have two things left to talk about, and then we'll end it. There's not going to be really any crossfire on these two teams, these two topics, because they're sort of just kind of heavy opinion. If you want, because I'm not going to debate yours, but you can go after mine if you'd like a little bit. Unless I kind of like soft disagree, I'll just make passing comments. So I'll go first. My teams that I think is going to be best season you think a team had in the NFL, considering, like, here's what I did to consider for best season a team had and worst season a team had. What the roster's made up of, overcoming things, just a general thing. You know what I mean when I say best season. And I'm gonna start with the most disappointing season, then work to the best, because my best season is very surprising. You won't guess who I think. Mania was even surprised. He went, "Wow, dude, that's very modest." I kind of agree. He actually was gonna change his to mine, but I was like, Mania, you can't be homering for the same team the same team I choose. But the team that I went with for most disappointing was obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers. Easiest fucking most disappointing team. Big Ben almost threw for 5,000 yards. They had 2 receivers with like 1,200 receiving yards. James Conner went for 1,000 rushing yards. They had a defense in the top 10, and they missed the playoffs. There's no reason to miss the playoffs. No, their division was horrible. The Ravens won it at 9-6, or 10-6. Sorry. Like, that was it. 10 wins, won the division, and you have a team with a Hall of Fame quarterback that threw for almost 5,000, 2 1,000-yard receivers, a tight end that almost hit 1,000 yards, a running back, your backup running back almost went for 1,000. Like, what's going on? You have a top defense, one of the top defenses scoring, one of the tops in sacks. It makes no sense. You guys it was a bad coaching. They were a distracted team. They didn't play through adversity. They let everything distract them. Mike Tomlin has completely lost control of the team. And, there's no reason this team goes 8-6-1 or 8-7-1 or whatever they win. Or 9 wins, 9-6-1. Like, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you have the best offense. You have one of the best rosters in the NFL. What are you doing? It makes no sense how this team didn't make the playoffs. I'm very disappointed. I'm happy they didn't. I think it's hilarious. But, I mean, all things considered, there's zero reason they're not in the playoffs. And that's why I think they're the most disappointing team in the NFL. Not much I need to really say further about it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You have Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, who had a breakout year, Big Ben. You have your defense. I don't know the names of specifically. What reason are they not in the playoffs? I can't quite figure it out, except they just underachieved, underperformed, and just shit the bed. They should be in the playoffs. The Ravens shouldn't be. And then we can go ahead with the team I thought, and Mania agreed with by the time I'm done, that had the best season, and that was the mighty New England Patriots, folks. It was the New England Patriots, Mania, and I know you agree with me. Not only were they one bad coaching call away from being the number 1 seed in the AFC for many years in a row, they did this with nothing for Tom Brady to work with. They have Chris Hogan and Julian Edelman all year. Not even all year. They didn't have Edelman for part of the season. They didn't have Gordon for most of the season now. Gronkowski's been broke down shell of himself. The defense is suspect except for Stephon Gilmore. They have a running game that's popped up out of nowhere, but Michelle was gone for a majority of the season, but they still won. And they kept winning despite all the problems. Bad defense, still winning games. Lack of receivers, still winning games, almost the number 1 seed. Your best receiver, tight end, aren't playing it anywhere near what they used to. Still almost the number 1 seed. Still first round bye. Brady's 41, still almost first seed. I don't know what else I can really say other than the fact that the Patriots, everything on that roster has completely outperformed themselves. Brady's having his best season of his career, in my opinion, because he's never had this little to work with and still succeeded so wildly, because he's never been this bare-boned. He's always had at least something he could throw to. This year, he's got nothing. You can't tell me he does, because you wouldn't give me your healthy, good-looking, young tight end for Gronkowski right now. You wouldn't take it straight up. Can we have your team's tight end for Gronkowski? I bet you wouldn't give him up in a heartbeat. Be like, nah, I don't want the Patriots to have a good receiver. You know what I mean? And I know goddamn sure you wouldn't give up even the guy with the torn ACL for Edelman. You wouldn't give up Fuller for Edelman. So it's one of those things where you can honestly just look at people and go, yeah, you know, they have nothing to work with. They're still winning despite everything stacked against them, the losses, the injuries, the suspensions. Just Belichick, I think, trying to collapse the team because he's angry with the Kraft and the Brady love. It's fine. We're still winning games. Almost the number 1 seed. Had he not put Gronk out on the field, we would be the number 1 seed.
We're also almost the 3rd seed.
Yeah, but the Texans couldn't beat the Eagles, and almost blew it against the Jets. Haha. And we beat your team, so we also beat most of our playoff teams. I think all 5 of our losses were to non-playoff teams. So I don't know. We lost to bad teams for some reason. The Jaguars, Titans, Lions, Dolphins, and Steelers. We lost to non-playoff teams.
How do you feel about the Patriots losing to the Lions?
I was fine with it. I'm a fan of both teams.
I know, that's what I was asking. You're a fan of both teams.
I'm fine. Oh well.
Okay.
But yeah, that's why I think the Patriots had the best season, because nobody thought they'd be here. Nobody thought they'd be this close to the number 1 seed, and yet here they are, standing strong yet again. Go ahead, Mania. What are your teams? Go.
Okay. The best season, and I'm gonna wait until the end of it. I'm gonna start with my process of elimination. The easiest. Yeah, I'll get to my team. It's gonna be the process of elimination. I'll get down. The first thing I looked at was playoff. You have to be a playoff team. Second one was they had to improve their season. Yeah, the Patriots were eliminated early on, Rob. They did not have the best season. And then, I just kind of eliminated and went down to the Chargers because, they had a lot of obstacles against them as well. I think they only had like 1 real home game. The rest were like all away game.
Yeah, they have like the best roster in the NFL. They have so much stacked against them.
Yeah, but imagine playing an away game every single week. You get
used to it.
Go into your stadium and you see your stadium, the opposing team's jersey.
At some point, by like week 4, you'd be used to it. But sorry, I'm really not supposed to be like arguing and debating. I'm sorry. It's your turn.
Well, it would tire a lot of teams out, and it's not just the whole. They were in the same division as the Chiefs. It's not like the Patriots had a hard division. I mean, they had the Bills and Jets, and they had the Dolphins, who I think did they even go even? Dolphins. I think like everyone in the division.
You're not supposed to be telling me why my team didn't have the best season.
Okay, well the Chargers, they had the Chiefs. And then they would, if it wasn't for the Chiefs, they would be the first in their division. They were nearly just like the Patriots. They nearly had the first seed, just like the Patriots had the first seed. There were a lot of teams close to that. The Chiefs like barely ran away with it, and the Chiefs. The reason why I don't think they had the best season despite being above the Chargers was because they barely improved their season. The Chargers, they went from 9-7 to 12-4, and then the Chiefs went from they just gained like a couple extra wins. They didn't do much, and it's not like they had like a lot against them. They were. People knew they were going to make the playoffs. They knew they were going to get a first round bye, and home field advantage. It's just they just kind of knew all this. The Colts and Texans. The reason why I don't think they had the best season either was they weren't very consistent. Neither one of the teams. They both made the playoffs. They both had pretty great games, but they weren't consistent like the Chargers were. And the Chargers, they played well all year. And it really shows in the Chiefs whenever they were at Arrowhead, whenever they had all those bad play calls and they still just overcame it.
Yep.
They didn't complain. They just went in, they fought it out, and they're like, okay, fine, you're gonna miss that helmet to helmet fine, I'll go for the 2-point conversion. I don't care. They've been playing hard all year. No home field advantage. It's just the Chargers had to overcome a lot. Moving to a new town, they're probably gonna have to move again.
Yeah.
It's the Chargers. It's not the team itself that had to. It's the stuff that was going on around the team.
Yeah. So now, is that all about the best season?
Yeah, that's.
That was like a 7-minute think about the Chargers.
What, you need it longer?
No. It was like 7 minutes about the Chargers. What's the other team? Like the most disappointing season. Now I'm not meaning to cut you off, but man, I gotta kind of watch like time and stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, the most disappointing season, for me, it's the Packers, and this has a little bit. This has a little bit of bias in it because me myself, I'm not a Packers fan. My aunt Susie, she's a Packers fan, and so there's like I got kind of like a bit of a soft spot there, and I was kind of disappointed they didn't make the playoffs. But there's more than just that. Like the Packers, they're supposed to have a pretty easy because they were last in the division last year, weren't they? So
they had like the second hardest. They had one of the hardest schedules in football.
They had one of the hardest.
Yeah, the entire NFC North had like the hardest schedules in football. They had to play each other, and like the Packers and Vikings went into the season really overrated for whatever reason. And then you plugged in the Chicago Bears, and then they had to play the NFC West, which is the Rams. They had to play the Vikings. A lot of the teams did. They had to play the Patriots, and it was just brutal. The NFC North was just a brutal. I think the Lions, Packers, and Vikings were number 1, 2, and 3 in strength of schedule. But that doesn't really mean much. I was just saying the Packers had a rough schedule, but so did everyone in the North.
They still should have made the playoffs. They had no excuses this year. Last year they missed the playoffs. They didn't have Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of excuses. This year they had Aaron Rodgers back. They should have had like a good draft pick. They should have been able to do something add on, but no, they just kind of relied heavily on only Aaron Rodgers. Really, the defense was crap. Everyone was just crap on the Packers, and they just played horrible all year. And then they end the season getting shut out to the Lions. Like, what a way to end this playoff-bound team, right? Like, when it comes to the Steelers, yes, they were very disappointing. They're probably one of the most disappointing, but they're not the only team that got so close, but barely missed. I guess they're just the most disappointing in that group because they had so much for them, and they had a horrible division. But for me, the Packers are even more disappointing because they didn't even get close, and they were supposed to be top. They should have been like right behind the Bears at the very least. The Packers they didn't do anything at all.
Yep, bad year.
Just a horrible year. It was
just
hard to watch. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else? I'm pretty well tapped out for this episode.
Yeah, nothing else.
Alright. It was a pretty good episode, I'd say. Went about 57 minutes so far. Is there anything else you want to say, add, or are you all good? All good?
I'm all good.
Alright, everybody.
For 3 minutes, make it an hour.
Alright, everybody. I thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Uncontested with Rob and Mania. You can let us know who won this debate down in the comment section below. Subscribe to Mania's channel. Subscribe to my channel if you're new around here. Mania's channel will be in the description. Let us know who won, who did what down in the comments. I already said that. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and want to see this to continue. Anything else, Mania, before I click stop? Go Patriots.
I can't think of anything.
Go Patriots. Go Colts. Boo Texans. Go Texans, you said? Alright. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.